The moment the four men walked into the diner, everyone knew something was wrong. They weren't customers. They didn't look like men who had come for coffee, pancakes, or a quiet afternoon. They walked in wearing black leather jackets, heavy boots, and the kind of arrogant expressions that made people lower their voices. The biggest one, a bald man with a thick beard and tattoos covering both arms, kicked a chair aside before dropping into a booth. His name was Derek Kane, and everyone in the neighborhood knew him. Derek ran a local motorcycle crew that had spent years intimidating businesses, collecting protection money, and making people afraid to speak against them. The waitress approached their table carefully. "Can I get you something to drink?" Derek stared at her. "Coffee? Yes, sir. And don't call me sir." The waitress immediately nodded. "Yes." Derek laughed. His friends laughed with him. Then something caught his attention. Across the diner, sitting alone beside the window, was a woman in a wheelchair. She looked completely different from everyone else in the room. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't looking at Derek. She wasn't trying to leave. She was simply drinking coffee and reading a paperback book. Her name was Rachel Morgan. She was 37 years old. Her dark brown hair fell over one shoulder, and she wore a simple cream-colored sweater with dark jeans. A black wheelchair supported her legs, but there was something about her posture that Derek didn't like. She sat straight, calm, confident, almost as if she had nothing in the world to fear. Derek stared at her. "What's she looking at?" One of his friends shrugged. "Nothing." Derek smiled. "No, she's looking at us." Rachel slowly turned a page. She hadn't even looked at him. That irritated him even more. "Hey." Rachel ignored him. Derek stood. The entire diner became quiet, and Rachel finally looked up. Their eyes met. Derek expected fear. He saw none. Instead, Rachel simply said, "Can I help you?" Derek smiled. "No, I just wanted to see if you could hear me." Rachel closed her book. "I can hear you perfectly." A few customers looked down. The waitress froze behind the counter. Derek walked toward Rachel, and that was the moment he made the biggest mistake of his life. Derek stopped beside Rachel's wheelchair. "You always sit here alone?" Rachel looked at him. "Usually. Must be lonely. Sometimes." He leaned closer. "Where's your husband?" Rachel's expression didn't change. "I don't have one." Derek laughed. "Boyfriend?" "No. Family." Rachel took another sip of coffee. "Why?" Derek's smile disappeared. "I don't like people who think they're better than me." Rachel looked genuinely confused. "I never said I was." "You don't have to." One of Derek's friends walked around her wheelchair. "What's wrong with your legs?" The diner went silent. Rachel looked down briefly, then back at him. "An injury? Military?" Rachel nodded. "Yeah." Derek noticed the small military emblem attached to her wheelchair. His smile returned. "Oh, so you're some kind of hero?" Rachel didn't answer. Derek pointed at the emblem. "What did you do? Drive a truck?" His friends laughed. Rachel remained silent. Then Derek grabbed the handle of her wheelchair. "Let's see if the hero can move without this thing." He suddenly pushed the chair backward. Rachel's coffee spilled across the table. Her book fell onto the floor. The chair slammed against the wall. Several customers gasped. The waitress rushed forward. "Please stop." Derek turned toward her. "Stay out of it." Rachel slowly looked down at her spilled coffee. Then she looked at Derek. Her voice remained calm. "You should walk away." Derek laughed. "You threatening me?" "No." Rachel paused. "I'm warning you." The entire diner seemed to hold its breath. Derek leaned toward her. "You don't scare me." Rachel looked directly into his eyes. "I wasn't trying to." At a table near the back, a man named Evan Cole had been watching everything. He was 29. He wore jeans and a plain gray shirt. To anyone else, he looked like an ordinary customer, but he wasn't. Evan was a Navy sailor, and he recognized Rachel, not personally. But he recognized the small silver challenge coin attached to her wheelchair. He had seen that symbol before, on the desk of his commanding officer, on the wall of a military hospital, and inside the locker of one of the most respected special operations officers he had ever heard about. Evan's stomach tightened. He quietly stood, walked outside, pulled out his phone, and called a number he had been told never to use casually. One ring, two, then someone answered. "Speak." Evan looked through the window. Derek was standing over Rachel. "She needs help." A pause. "Who?" Evan lowered his voice. "Rachel Morgan." Silence, then the voice on the other end became completely different. "Are you certain?" "Yes." Another pause. "Is she safe?" Evan looked through the glass. "No." The response came immediately. "Stay there." The call ended. Evan slipped his phone back into his pocket. He had no idea what would happen next. But he knew one thing: Rachel Morgan was not alone anymore. Inside the diner, Derek had become even bolder. He picked up Rachel's fallen book. He looked at the cover. Military history. Rachel held out her hand. Give it back. Derek smiled. Ask nicely. Rachel stared at him, put the book on the table. Something about her tone made his smile disappear. But his pride wouldn't allow him to back down. He tossed the book onto the floor. Rachel looked at it, then at him. You're making a mistake. Derek crouched beside her. Everybody keeps telling me that. He pointed toward her wheelchair. You know what I see? Rachel said nothing. I see someone who can't fight back. One of his friends laughed, but nobody else did. Then Derek grabbed the wheelchair again. This time he started pushing it toward the front door. Rachel grabbed the wheels. Let go. Derek continued. I'm taking you outside. Rachel's voice became colder. You really should stop. Derek suddenly stopped. Why? Rachel looked at him. Because you have no idea who you're dealing with. Derek laughed. Who are you? Rachel answered quietly. Someone who has already survived worse men than you. Derek's face hardened. He stepped closer, and then boom. A heavy vehicle door slammed outside. Everyone turned toward the windows. Then another, and another. 8 men entered the diner. No uniforms, no weapons visible, no shouting, just dark jeans, boots, plain shirts, and an unmistakable military presence. The room went silent. They moved with complete confidence. The first man was tall and broad-shouldered. His name was Commander Nathan Hayes. He looked across the room. His eyes found Rachel. For half a second, his expression changed. Respect. Then he looked at Derek. The temperature in the diner seemed to drop. Derek's friends suddenly stopped smiling. Nathan walked forward. 7 men followed. Rachel looked at him. Nathan, he nodded. Ma'am. Derek looked between them. Who the hell are you? Nathan didn't answer. He stopped beside Rachel. Then he noticed the spilled coffee, the book on the floor, the damaged wheelchair. His jaw tightened. One of the 8 men quietly picked up Rachel's book. Another moved the chair away from the wall. Nathan finally looked at Derek. You. Derek swallowed. Me? You touched her wheelchair. Derek tried to laugh. It's not a big deal. Nathan took one step forward. It is to us. Derek looked around. Who are you people? Nathan answered. Friends. Derek laughed nervously. Friends? Nathan nodded. 8 of them. He pointed toward the other men, and every one of us knows exactly what she did. Rachel sighed. Nathan, don't. Nathan looked at her. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. Then he turned toward Derek. You want to know why we came? Derek said nothing. Nathan continued. 3 years ago, our team was trapped during an operation overseas. The diner became completely silent. There were men shooting at us from 3 directions. One of our helicopters couldn't reach us. Nathan looked at Rachel. She was there. Rachel lowered her eyes. Nathan continued. She wasn't one of us. Derek looked confused. She was an Army combat medic attached to another unit. One of the other SEALs stepped forward. His name was Marcus Reed. He had a scar across his eyebrow. I was dying, Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. I'd been hit twice. He pointed toward Rachel. She came for me. Rachel shook her head. Marcus? No, Marcus looked at her. Let them hear it. His voice cracked slightly. She crossed open ground while people were shooting at her. The diner was completely silent. She dragged me behind cover. Marcus looked down, and when the second explosion hit, he stopped. Rachel finished the sentence. She lost her legs. Nobody spoke. Derek's face changed. The man he had just humiliated wasn't helpless. She had lost her legs saving someone else's life, and 8 elite warriors had never forgotten it. Derek looked at Rachel. For the first time, he wasn't seeing a woman in a wheelchair. He was seeing the person who had saved the lives of men standing in front of him. Nathan stepped closer. You mocked her. Derek said nothing. You pushed her. Silence. You treated her disability like entertainment. Derek's eyes dropped. Nathan's voice remained calm. And now you're going to understand something. He pointed toward Rachel. She doesn't need us to fight her battles. Rachel looked at Nathan. He continued. But we will never stand by while someone disrespects her. Derek swallowed. I didn't know. Nathan stared at him. That doesn't excuse you. Derek looked at Rachel. For the first time all afternoon, he seemed genuinely ashamed. Rachel said nothing. Derek finally whispered, I'm sorry. Rachel didn't respond. His friends spoke. We're sorry too. Rachel looked at all 3 men, then she said, Do you know what bothered me most? Nobody answered. You thought my wheelchair made me weak. She touched the wheel beside her. You saw what I lost. She paused. You didn't see what I survived. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Nathan didn't punch Derek. He didn't threaten him. He didn't need to. Instead, Nathan walked to the diner owner. "Do you have cameras?" The owner nodded. "Yes, keep the footage." Derek's face went pale. Nathan continued. "The police are already on their way." Derek looked shocked. "You called the police?" Nathan nodded. "Of course. This wasn't about revenge, it was about consequences." The owner pulled up the security footage. Everyone watched the screen. Derek pushing Rachel's wheelchair, the spilled coffee, the insults. The intimidation. Everything had been recorded. The police arrived minutes later. Derek and his 3 friends were escorted outside, but before Derek left, he turned around. Rachel was still sitting there. He looked at her. "I'm really sorry." Rachel nodded. "I believe you." Then she added, "Now become a better man." Derek lowered his head and walked away. After the police left, the diner slowly returned to normal, but Nathan wasn't finished. He walked over to Rachel. "You shouldn't have been alone today." Rachel smiled. "I wasn't expecting company." Marcus laughed. "Neither were we." The 8 men pulled chairs around her table. Rachel looked around. "You all drove across town because some idiot spilled my coffee." Nathan smiled. "No." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Then why?" Nathan leaned forward. "Because 3 years ago you gave 8 men a second chance at life." Rachel became quiet. Nathan continued. "You've spent 3 years thinking you lost something." He pointed toward her legs. "But we never saw it that way." Marcus smiled. "You didn't lose your legs." Rachel looked at him. "You gave them?" The table became silent. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Nathan raised his coffee cup. "To Rachel Morgan." The other 7 raised theirs. "To Rachel." For the first time that day, Rachel smiled, a real smile. Not the controlled smile she had worn while Derek bullied her. A genuine one. The diner owner walked over with a fresh cup of coffee. "On the house." Rachel laughed. "You're going to regret that." The owner smiled. "Never." Customers began clapping. Then someone stood, another joined. Soon the entire diner was applauding. Rachel looked around, embarrassed. She wasn't used to attention. Nathan leaned toward her. "Don't fight it." She smiled. "I hate attention." Marcus laughed. "We know." Rachel looked down at the wheelchair, then at the 8 men sitting around her. For years, she had believed the wheelchair represented the worst day of her life. The day everything changed. The day she lost part of herself. But that afternoon, she realized something. Her wheelchair wasn't a symbol of what she had lost. It was proof of what she had survived. And the 8 men around her weren't there because they thought she was weak. They were there because they knew exactly how strong she was. Outside, Derek and his friends were facing the consequences of their actions. Inside, Rachel was surrounded by people who remembered the woman she had been before the injury and respected the woman she had become afterward. Nathan looked at her. "You ready to go?" Rachel smiled. "Where?" He stood. "Anywhere." She looked at the 8 men, then shook her head. "No." She pointed toward her coffee. "I'm finishing this first." Everyone laughed. And for the first time in years, Rachel laughed with them. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive with a fist. Sometimes it arrives quietly. 8 people walk through a door. A bully suddenly realizes the truth. And the person he thought was powerless becomes the strongest person in the room. Rachel had lost part of her body, but she had never lost her courage. And the 8 Navy SEALs who owed her their lives would never let the world forget it. Because real heroes don't always need someone to save them. Sometimes, they simply need someone to remember what they sacrificed.